confident that that's what had happened. God. Confident that that's what had happened. Confident that that's what had happened. God. Confident that that's what had happened. God. Confident that that's what had happened. God. Confident that that's what had happened. Confident that that's what had happened. God. 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 What kind of band is this? Everybody poops sometimes. Give us the smolder. Wake up, sweetness.
Your first time should be more than special.
I'm in, Savannah said. Good Lord, Gemma. When a man and a woman, in this case, really, really love each other, what happens is they fuck.
Ooh, hello?
Oh, dang it, I lost my fish. This next word almost sounds like Quidditch. Quidditch milade Diana Agosiagath an Fiedian. As much as I love fucking you, sweetness, we stared into each other's eyes whilst I moaned in ecstasy. Having consumed half of the bourbon, I keep saying bourbon. You know, every time I mess up on a word, Stunt Mama just shows up.
She had her seductive smile on her lips.
I said we couldn't have sex. I didn't say anything about everything else. Ew. Happy to help. Biatch. You are the spark of light and the vastness of my night. His note, like a finality to a beautiful, breathtaking song.
Hello. And good evening. Oh boy. Your CPU died on day 28, had to do a rush order, and then had to stream through your Xbox. Gosh, that, you know, there are some things that give me anxiety, and there are some things that do not. Having my computer, my PC, fail in any sort of capacity is right up there at the top of the list. So good for you for being able to figure it out. Cause yeah, that would have, nope, not happening. Not a good day for me at all if that happens. So let's hope not. Rexter, hello, handsome to you too, sir. How the heck are you? How are you? Here's your puzzle, by the way, of another castle. Looks really cool. Still breathing? Well, it's a good start. I'm doing pretty well. I had to call a tech after 2 days of BSOD. It was not a good time. I thought it was a RAM issue at first. Oh dear. I'm glad you got it figured out though. That's definitely the main thing. They got it in, did a diagnostic for me for free and told me that it was my CPU, so that was nice. Oof. What a disaster. That would have given me heart palpitations for sure. Family is great, thank you. I mean, my wife is done with treatment, so that's, you know, fantastic. Now it's just healing time, you know? Just got to get through the healing process. So, probably a few more nights sleeping in a chair for the recovery, just because it's painful for her. But she's, you know, she's doing well overall. Had to downgrade from an i9. I don't know enough about Intel's processors, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's gonna be great. You'll see. You'll see. Let's see. I need to shut down a program real quick. Where did you go now? There you are. And I keep getting pop-ups and notifications, so I needed to quit it so I could stop getting those notifications. So I originally had planned on playing Once Human tonight, but I had some like upset stomach things going on today. Had a bit of a headache earlier. I'm feeling better now, but I decided to just read instead because I wanted the cozy, relaxed feeling for stream tonight. But I am finally on a new server for Once Human, so that's good. Love the game. They've added a few little things here and there, so I am going to be playing some more of it offline, etc. But for tonight, we're reading. I did, but it was before I heard about all that. Okay. That's what I'm streaming tonight? Nice. Yeah. I love that game. It's a wonderful game. Also, I haven't updated it in the about section down below yet, but I have our next 2 books lined up and a third that I haven't ordered yet, but the first 2 are sitting on my desk in front of me. So I'm going to introduce them to you before we get into our book for tonight. The first... Oh, my green screen is messing with the eyes. That's actually kind of cool. Huh. I love that. Because they're green eyes, and it's a green screen. Zyrenes, the Witch Cats by A.J. Saunders. We have read some of her work before, which is why I was thrilled to see she had a new book, and I have no stipulations about reading her stuff. I was impressed with her previous works, enjoyed all of her books, so I'm sure this will be no different. So that'll be the next book. And then this next one after that should be pretty interesting. So we all know the tales of Sherlock Holmes. A lot of us have either read the books and or seen the movies and the spin-off TV shows, etc., etc. Somebody took it upon themselves to write a different kind of Sherlock Holmes story. This is called Song for Someone, but it's actually how Sherlock and Irene Adler came to be. It's like the prequel, if you will, to all of the shenanigans. One with less cocaine. At least that's how it was described to me. So I'm quite curious about this one. I think it won an award too, if I recall. I'd have to look online, but yeah. So the author has given me permission to read it, so that will be our second book. And then I have another book which I haven't quite ordered yet, but I will be soon. And so we've got essentially 3 more books lined up after we finish Kingdom Society. I went from having no books to 3. So that's what's coming. Cool stuff. Let's see what I missed. I returned all 300 pieces of them because of that issue. In case you didn't know, I own a computer company. Yes, Rexter does. He is the guy. Had to downgrade from the newest top of the line because they have a tendency to cook themselves to one that has no problems but has been available for about a year or 2. I'm sure it'll still be great. Good. I hope everyone's had a good week so far. There is a new channel point redeem, so that if you want the sand to fall, I forget what the technical term is. If you want to watch the sand do its thing, for the channel point redeem, I will flip it over and we can watch it fall. But otherwise, that's pretty much it on my end. Not too much else to really talk about. We've got the puzzle. We will be reading Iron Flame in Discord this evening. It is Thursday, as I've had to remind myself a few times today that it's Thursday, but it is, which means it's almost the weekend. So yeah, I've got my tea. I've got our book. I've got you wonderful people. Don't really need much else right now. So, unless anyone has any objections, what kind of tea? I drink the same thing all the time because it's what I basically grew up on in the UK, where I was born and raised. It is a black tea, like English breakfast, essentially. And I add milk and sugar to change the flavor and sweeten it up a bit. That's kind of my go-to. I will occasionally do like an Earl Grey or something like that, but there's a not too far from me, about 30-40 minutes away, is the Amana Colonies, and they have really nice tea that they get there. I don't know where they get it from, but it's pretty good. I worked in the tea industry for years, so it's a passion and curiosity. Oh, that's interesting. I can't say I've ever met anyone that's worked in the tea industry, so cross that off the list. That's cool. The same 5 o'clock tea. All right. Let's switch over. Oh, we are... What? Stop Mama's mama. Hello to you too. I need to figure out where to put this. I did not plan this out. No, we're just gonna have to shrink it a tiny bit, but we're gonna put it right there. Thank you, Stop Mama's mama, for the 24 months in a row. My goodness. I don't deserve you. I don't deserve any of you, but I really don't deserve Stop Mama's mama. She gives the best hugs, okay? Don't tell my wife that, but it's true. All right. You know what this means? It means we have to spin the wheel. Let's see what it lands on. And Layden, hello Layden, how are you? 5 more push-ups. Apparently we're just on a push-up thing. Okay. Now we owe 10. Layden, how's it going? How are ya? Doing well? Time to relax after work? Well, you come to the right place. We are about to crack open our book and read a few chapters. Atari. Hi, Atari. I've enjoyed our friendship. Me too. I'm gonna need you to move a little bit closer to Iowa, though, if you don't mind. Just saying. I can't move. We're building a house. So the burden is going to have to lie on your shoulders, I'm afraid. Or we can figure out how to, teleport. That would be cool. Right.
I'm lurking now.
Thank you for the lurk, Tony. Enjoy Once Human if that is what you're off to do. I'm sure it'll be a great time. That's a big no. Well, I've already built my house. I'm down for teleporting. Well, I don't blame you. Awesome. Enjoy Once Human. It's going to be great. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on page 388, which means we have roughly 100 pages just shy remaining in this book. We're on chapter 36. Out with the old and in with the new. And interestingly enough, tonight's chapter looks like it starts off from Zalron's perspective. I just dropped my tissue box. We're starting from his perspective because it says Zalron's memories. So sit back, relax, and I will read to you. And as always, thank you for being here. And as usual, Pretzel Rocks is being a pain in the butt. Complete pain in my ass. Unbelievable. Yep, I think, okay, hold on. I'm not going to read to you. Not yet, anyway. It looks like I need to do some maintenance here. Pretzel Rocks has been acting up lately. So we're going to kill the program with a really dull knife. And then I'm going to fire it up again and we'll see if it behaves. And if it doesn't, we're going to switch over to something else for music. Because I like to have some gentle tunes in the background while we read. I feel like it just makes it better. So we'll see if Pretzel Rocks behaves. I don't think it's going to. So, if it's going to be a poopy head, yep, it is. It's not even loading now. It hates that I shut it down. That's fine. We're going to find something else. So just bear with me. I'm going to try this instead. If it's too loud or too quiet, let me know. But we'll just try this. We might get startled by an ad once in a while, but we'll see. All right. Chapter 36. Now I will read to you. Out with the old, in with the new. Zalron's memories. Walking at a brisk pace, Joseph smiled as he approached Tosarin. He had just finished leading his soldiers to victory in another kingdom's conflict and was finally getting to come back home. Looking up, he could see the entrance to the village. And before he could even take a relaxing deep breath, a piercing scream echoed. Hi, Kay. Don't worry about it. We literally just started reading. I'm like 4 lines in. You're totally fine. I was about to start reading, and then my music stuff just stopped working properly. Anyway, so don't worry. It's good to see you. Turning his head quickly, he tried to find where it was coming from. It sounded like a child's voice. He turned to his second in command. Take the rest of the soldiers back to the castle and dismiss them for the day. After soldiers obeyed, he went toward the distress call. Allowing his assassin's instinct to take hold, he snuck behind a nearby tree and peered around it. He threw up his black hood and pulled his gray face shield up so that only his eyes were visible. Grabbing a pair of daggers, he approached the whimpering cries. Hey, Stump Papa. Yeah, I saw you pull up. I forget what it was, but enjoy the game. I hope it's fun. He came upon a sickening scene. A small girl was being held by a bandit just beyond the village. The gruff man held a knife to the child's throat. Sneaking quietly and effectively, Joseph came up behind the bandit and pulled him away from the child. What the hell are you doing? The bandit barked, trying to escape from Joseph's iron grip. You just made me miss out on a huge bounty. Are you bloody serious? Joseph asked. What kind of sick person takes a child for profit? People who like gold, the bandit snickered. I wish you wouldn't have said that, Joseph said. Grabbing the man's head firmly, he slammed his dagger into the man's skull, dropping him to the ground. He didn't give rapists and murderers a chance to get away. He attended to the crying child and pulled down his face mask. You're okay now, little one. What's your name? Aria? The small girl responded, continuing to tremble. Joseph picked her up and held her close. Do you know where your parents are? He asked. Looking at her broke his heart. He couldn't bear to see children in pain. He waited patiently for a response, but Aria remained silent. It made sense considering the traumatic event she'd just endured. And also, you just stabbed the man in his skull, but that's beside the point. He smiled at her and poked her nose playfully. Well, I'll take you into the village, and from there perhaps you'll be able to find your own way home. As we walked toward the entrance of Tosaren, gonna have a hard time pronouncing that. Tosaren. He reached into his pocket and put a small chocolate wafer in front of the girl. The child took it from him with her small hand and started nibbling on it delicately. I can read too. We're having a great night so far. Once inside the boundaries of safety, he kneeled and set the girl down. She looked up at him and tilted her head. He smiled at her. Well, I'm sure your parents are worried. You better scurry along and find them. I'm Joseph, by the way, and if you ever need me, I'll be here. As the child was leaving, she turned back once more. Thank you, Joseph. I'll always remember you. And then she scurried away. Zolran's next memory. Joseph's jaw dropped in disbelief. Tig. Hi, Tig. How are you? Wait. If you're here, that means you're not sleeping. And if you're not sleeping, that means you don't feel good. Sad. Is it still your tummy? I know you're having kind of the tummy troubles this morning, afternoon, your time. Correct, unfortunately, but happy to see you. Well, I'm happy to see you too. I would like you to come in and just be like, no, I decided to stay up just so I could say, hi, I feel fine, thank you. Maybe one day, just not today, but that's okay. Just relax. Listen to the story, listen to the music. Maybe you'll drift off to sleep. Joseph's jaw dropped in disbelief. Wait, did you just say? Beth nodded excitedly and leaped into his arms. Yes, I'm pregnant, my love. We're gonna have a baby. Joseph lifted his wife into the air and spun her in a circle before kissing her. This was the best news he could have asked for. I can't believe it, Beth. I can't wait to be a father to our little boy or girl. He kneeled and put his ear against her stomach. He could make out a small heartbeat. Kissing her belly, he rose to his feet and put his hand on her face. I'm going to run into town and grab some food and tea for us to celebrate. I'll be right back, my love. Don't be too long. Beth blew him a kiss. Running through the flower fields, Joseph smiled. The pink and white petals broke off the stems with every step he took and drifted into the wind, fluttering around him. Everything he wanted in life, he had, and nothing could ruin his high spirits. That was until he looked up to the sky. Ominous dark clouds had moved in. A storm was approaching, but not the kind Joseph was prepared for. Coming up to the edge of the castle grounds, he waved at the guards. One of them took a spear and tapped the air. A large crack formed, and then the energy barrier opened. He thanked them as he passed and went straight to town. His first stop was the butcher. He wanted to pick up a nice slab of beef, along with some potatoes. So many things were going through his mind that he forgot to tell Callan about the good news. I'll have to tell him when I get back to the castle, he thought. As he approached the butcher, he handed the large man behind the counter 5 gold coins, then waited. Out of nowhere, he felt a small hand tug his pants pocket. He looked down and spotted a bashful, older Arya. He kneeled and placed her hand on her head. Well, well, look at how much you've grown. I haven't seen you in 3 years. How old are you now? Arya giggled. I'm 8 now. Mother says I can start working in the field soon. What are you doing out here today? Well, as a matter of fact, I'm here to pick up some supplies to make my wife a delicious feast. I just found out that I'm going to be a father, and I still can't believe it. Joseph went red. For a tough warlock, all it took was a child to make him drop his guard. Well, I'm happy for you, Mr. Joseph. I need to get back to help Mother and Father make dinner, but I wanted to say hello since I saw you. Also, I wanted to give you something. Arya reached into her pocket and pulled out a chocolate wafer. Here, it's for you. I made it myself. Joseph took the treat from the girl. A stray tear left his eye, and he wrapped her into a tight hug. Thank you, Arya. You'll always have a special place in my heart. Getting to his feet, he noticed his meat and potatoes were sitting on the counter. He grabbed them and put them in a basket. Before departing, he looked down at Arya. You take care of yourself. Present day. Zalron opened his eyes to a swirling purple lightning storm. The walls of his prison were breaking apart. His memory had been too much for him to handle. Every evil, horrible thing he'd done in his life flooded his mind, just from seeing one little girl's face. Arya, why do I still remember you? His crystal shard began a rhythmic glow. It grew brighter with each pulse of his heart. His anger had always fueled his weapon, just as it drove him insane the more he used it. It was the price he paid for bonding his soul with the Allstone. As his gem reached peak power, the swirling lightning around him intensified in strength, causing the ice prison to shatter. Finally free, he thought. Cracking his neck, he looked around at the empty area. He was prepared to do anything to destroy his enemy, but he didn't know where to start. Within himself, he could sense a gradual decay slowly taking hold. He wasn't sure if it was from being trapped in the ice prison for a week, or if Merrick's body had run out of its usefulness. As he was preparing to leave, his eyes fell upon Arion Voloran, who sat cross-legged a few feet away, drinking from a goblet and munching on bread. Zalron rushed forward, anger building inside of him, and his pointer finger extended. "You bastard! Were you sitting there all this time?" Arion smiled as he set his cup down. "Yes, I was. I wanted to see if you'd break out on your own, or if I'd have to fix yet another one of your mistakes." Zalron grabbed the man's collar. "My mistake? I'm the one who said we should have taken more precautions with your daughter. It's not my fault you didn't listen. I should kill you right now." He gasped as a firm hand grabbed him from behind and lifted him off the ground. He struggled as he tried to free himself. Arion stood, placed a finger on the man's chest, and chuckled. "You couldn't kill me if you wanted to. You're a bigger fool than I thought if you believe you're anything more than a pawn for my plans." Turning his head, Zalron saw another Arion, the one holding his throat, and his heart skipped a beat. The cloning technique is one even I struggle with. How is he able to do this without breaking a sweat? Is he using dark magic to do it? With my crystal shard, I can only create 5 clones, and that's after I've absorbed hundreds of souls. I need to be more cautious around this man. Zalron slowly raised his hands. "My apologies, Lord Varian. I serve at your pleasure." Arion nodded in satisfaction and snapped his fingers. The clone misted away, and Zalron dropped to the ground. "Now that you're out of that prison, I believe it's time we move on to our last resort plan. We need to go to Torreson to get your original body." David Air on the air. What's up, man? It's been a hot minute. How are you? How's life treating you, sir? What do you mean? Arion aimed his hand to the side and released a white beam of light. The air split open into a rectangle doorway bursting with tiny sparkles of pink and red. Arion pointed toward it. "Follow me." Zalron followed his master through the portal, and immediately his pulse raced as he looked at a familiar sight. A beaten-down, red dirt path snaked from the forest line and entered a small market. Both sides of the street were adorned with small red, brown, and black buildings. Hundreds of happy people moved up and down the crowded business district. It wasn't until Zalron turned his head to the right that he found a tall castle. Sharp pain came from all directions of his brain, and flashes of a life long forgotten came back to him. As his arms trembled, a vision of a small brown-haired girl holding a chocolate wafer in her hand appeared before him. "Joseph, you finally came home." He heard the words so clearly. He could have sworn the person had been standing in front of him. However, the vision eventually faded, along with the child's voice. Zalron raised a trembling hand. He tried focusing on his fingers, but they faded in and out. "Axon, good to see you, King. Sounding great as always." David, you are the champion of champions when it comes to voice acting, so I appreciate your kind words, sir. "Come along, fool." Arion motioned toward a field full of gravestones. Zalron attempted to find words, but for once he didn't have any. Too many memories of his old life were attacking him, leaving him weak and vulnerable. "Why did you bring me here? Arion. This place meant something to me in my first life, didn't it? Arion stopped at an oval-shaped grave with the name Joseph Rigorous Black engraved on it. He motioned Zalron over with a stern finger. This is where you were buried. It took me a while to figure out what your name was from your first life. The people of the city seem to remember you as a legend, the most legendary assassin that Dun Nahar had seen in some time. Zalron held up a hand. Why are you telling me this? It's not like I remember any of it. His lips tightened as he massaged his temples. Arion put a hand on the dark warrior's shoulder. His words came out as a haunting whisper. I think you remember everything. I think coming back here jogged up all those lost memories, and you're hoping it would all go away so you can think straight and take your revenge on the Dark Council for what Korath did all those years ago. Zalron flinched. His hand began shaking and his headache grew stronger. Stop talking, Arion. I don't want to hear this nonsense. Why not? Arion backed away a few paces and kneeled before the gravestone. It's all true, isn't it? Just be honest with me. Let's put the past behind us and prepare you for the future. That's the only way my plan will work. Zalron tilted his head. Don't you mean our plans? Looking up from the grave, Arion raised his eyebrows and offered a small grunt. Of course. Our plans. Zalron walked a few paces closer to his gravestone and released a slow breath. If you want honesty, fine. I've wanted to kill every single one of you ever since becoming a member of Malice's Dark Council. I never imagined I'd lose so much of myself along the way. I had one goal in mind: to bring back the ones I'd lost and to gain more power so I could protect my kingdom. I didn't join because I wanted to, but because I had to. Raising his head slowly, he found Arion giving him an empathetic look. Veins bulged on Zalron's forehead. Why are you looking at me like that? Arion turned his head away and focused on the gravestone. Placing a hand on it, he offered his other to Zalron. Come over here. It's time for you to be reunited with your original body. You know, it's interesting, just taking a quick mental break here. For the past 390 odd pages, all we've done is be despised at Zalron because of the bad guy that he is portrayed in the story. But in this chapter, in this one chapter, we now see him as a victim. And just like that, it changes the entire perspective of who and what Zalron really is. This might be, in my opinion, the best chapter so far in the book. David, if you type !kingdom, you'll get a link to the author that wrote this book. And then you can kind of see what it is that's happening. Or at least get an idea. It's just shy of 500 pages, or 480 something, I think. Excuse me. Kingdom. It's in the title of the stream as well. There you go. Yep, that'll do it. No problem. Cute fawn. Aw. What a cute name. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Thank you. I hope you're enjoying the read. Zalron wasn't sure how he felt about allowing his master to do the spell. For so long, he'd relied on the soul bond with the Allstone and being able to get new bodies whenever he wanted. But for the first time in over 1,000 years, he felt hesitation. How do I know you aren't going to do some other spell and trap me in my mortal body? Or maybe you're just planning on killing me, eh? Arion scoffed. Aiming his hand forward, he released a beam of white light into the black hood. With his other hand, he released magenta light onto the gravestone. His arm shook violently and his skin turned a shade redder. Reanimation! The earth trembled and the ground cracked open. The gravestone broke apart, and a large skeleton rose to float in front of Arion. Zalron couldn't believe his eyes. It was like staring death in the face. And a moment later, the insides of his body tightened. It was as if someone took a hot poker and scraped it against the inside of his skin. Raising his hands, he watched, horrified, as his soul started seeping out of his body. Every part of him hurt. You're enjoying this? Well, I'm so glad. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Sharp pain continued tormenting him. All the while, Arion's magic continued flowing into the skeleton. With one last jolt of pain, Zalron's soul flew forward at the skeleton. A vicious, pink energy storm swirled around him for a time. Zaps of lightning struck different parts of his soul, causing more pain. He didn't think it was possible to feel pain without a body. Looking down to where the skeleton's feet were, he gasped, as he realized they were no longer bones but flesh and blood. Each time a bolt of lightning hit him, more flesh formed at different parts of his body until he could move his hands and walk around in the storm. After what he felt like an eternity, the energy storm ceased, and he stood staring at Merrick's dead body. So is this Zoran the real name of the Black Hood in the Amazon book description? Yes, the Black Hood is Zoran. Zalron is his name, and then in his former life, he was Joseph. How do you feel? Arion asked. A tone of wonder filled his voice. I feel... Zalron spotted a small pond nearby, so he went to it and kneeled. His original face stared back at him. Long brown hair with fierce blue eyes. A jaw so perfect and chiseled he almost felt like a true god. He looked at his arms to find bulging muscles, and as he stood, he sensed his new height of 7 feet 2 inches. He placed a hand on his chest and found his crystal shard. His garments were the same too, a black hooded cloak, darker than night, with rolling streaks of royal purple flowing up and down. Smiling, he went back to Arion and bowed his head. I feel stronger than ever before. Thank you for this. I'll never forget it. See to it that you don't. He motioned toward the rolling hills north of them. It's time we get moving. We need to get you an army that is strong enough to survive the coming attack. Am I not powerful enough to take them on by myself? Zalron crossed his arms. You have plenty of power, but your enemy is strong. They've beaten you countless times. Don't forget, I have people I have to answer to as well. So, this isn't a request. He began walking toward the trail that led out to the city. Now, let's go. As Zalron made his way toward Arion, a soft voice stopped him dead in his tracks. Joseph? Is that you? He turned his head slowly. A tall, brown-haired woman stood before him with a basket of chocolate wafers. She had a nervous, yet excited smile on her face. What are you doing here, girl? I've been waiting for you to return. I even studied magic to prolong my years. Zalron recognized her voice, but he didn't believe it was the same little girl from so many years ago. So he asked her to be sure. Who are you, and what do you want? You don't remember me? It's me, Aria. I thought you were dead for a time. When you came back home years ago and were killed by that wizard Zylok, I thought you were gone forever. Zylok told me you were evil, and that you'd taken dark power. But I didn't believe him. Every day I mourned you until I saw you again. You were standing over a dead woman, and you were crying. I didn't approach you. From that day forth, I begged every day in hopes you'd return to see me, my hero, who saved me when I was a little girl. She placed her hand on his cheek and smiled. Will you stay? Zalron grabbed her wrist but couldn't bring himself to remove her hand. Every memory from his life was passing through his mind in overdrive. Deep in his core, an overwhelming heat took hold. He felt something he hadn't felt since the day he joined the Dark Council. Happiness and love. But at the same time, hatred and rage fought to explode from within. Zalron tossed her hand away and scowled. I won't stay here in this pathetic city. I hate this place. And I hate you. A stray tear dripped down his cheek, and his heart beat quicker. Aria frowned, and her amber eyes welled with tears. Why would you say that? I love you, Joseph. You're my family. Zalron grabbed her shoulders and shook her. Don't say that. We aren't family. We have no ties whatsoever. You're just a naive little girl. You shouldn't come here. Leave now before you regret it. Aria's tears streamed down her cheeks as she held up the basket. She grabbed one of the chocolate treats and handed it to him. But I made these for you. I've waited for you to come back. Why are you being this way? More emotions flooded Zalron, and he began shaking violently. His eyes lit up purple, and a new side of anger came from him as he stared at the castle beyond the rest of the city. The one remaining place that tied him to his humanity. He didn't want to feel anymore. He simply wanted it to go away. More energy exuded off him as he swatted the basket of wafers away. Keep your filthy pastries to yourself. I don't want them. I don't want you. I hate this place. Just go away. What are you doing, fool? Whatever it is, get on with it. We've got things we need to attend to. Arion scoffed before continuing to the road. What does he mean? Arya asked, backing away a few paces. Zylok was right, wasn't he? You've become a monster. Don't mention that imbecile's name in my presence. Zalron screamed as lightning and fire started channeling around his body and forming into a large ball in front of his chest. Tears welled in his eyes as all his memories slowly faded one by one, until all that remained was the woman standing before him. You should have left when I gave you the chance. Arya dropped to her knees and stared at the menace before her. I forgive you, Joseph. Someday we'll see each other in the heavens. I just hope you can find peace. Zalron screamed as the ball of energy expanded larger before exploding. A powerful wave of lightning and energy shot forward, knocking Arya over and continuing to the city. It slammed into the stone walls and broke them into pieces. Piercing screams echoed from the city as people attempted to escape the falling boulders. The angry wave eventually made it to the castle and leveled it in a matter of seconds. Cacophonies of booms and screams continued for a few moments until the power wave ceased. Tosaren was nothing more than a pile of bloody rubble. Every soul in the city was dead. Zalron dropped his arms to his side and looked upon the devastation. Walking over to Arya, he studied her charred body. She coughed, and blood squirted out of her mouth and onto her mangled flesh. Kneeling, he found one of the chocolate wafers next to her and took it. He bit into it and smiled as the memories of Torsaron and Arya faded. He put a foot on her stomach and scowled. Let this be a lesson to you, girl. Don't stand in the way of Lord Zalron. Turning away from the destruction, he walked toward Arion before a booming voice sounded off. What have you done, you monster? Zalron turned to find Zylok, Cori, Alioth, and Ezra aiming their hands at him. He charged forward, but Arion stopped him. Not this time. Arion turned to Zylok. Better luck next time, old man. He grabbed Zalron, and they phased out of sight. And that ends chapter 36. My. What a turn of events. It's interesting because for a moment there, a very brief moment, but a moment nonetheless, we saw who Zalron used to be, aka Joseph. We saw the kind of person that he was and how he was respected and longed for in the community that he lived in. People looked up to him. They trusted him. But he sold his soul to the Dark Council with the promise that he'd be able to save his family. Drink! But he didn't save his family. And he definitely hasn't saved himself. At least not yet. Thank you for that hydration. This is book 1, which means, shocker, there are more books. So we may not know what happens with Zalron. But, well, let me take a sip first. That's good tea. Something that I noticed in the chapter that was kind of just glossed over. It was part of one sentence. And even the main point was only like a third of the sentence. So when I say glossed over, I mean it was glossed over. He had taken control of Merrick's body, Alioth and Sindral's father. In that chapter, he took over his old body, aka Joseph, and it said that Merrick lay there dead. So the whole hope from Alioth and Sindral was that they would be able to save their father. I don't think that's going to happen now. Unless they know some sort of interesting magic that can bring someone back to life, which, based on the story that we've been reading so far, I wouldn't necessarily put it past them, but I don't think that's going to happen. Heidi. Ladies and gentlemen, the most, how do I say this? One of the more fun people on Twitch when it comes to shenanigans. Some of them of which are pure fun, maybe 10%. 90% are not pure fun. Haiti763. I missed your stream mostly the other night, and I felt bad about that. I lurked for a little bit, but I wasn't really able to catch most of it. But I hope you had fun. Didn't she say something about Joseph dying? So Joseph is who he is now. So that was his like original, like Joseph was the original person. His family died. The Dark Council said, well, if you become Zalron, great. So Joseph died. Zalron became the person. And then his master, Arion, put him back into Joseph's body. However, Zalron had taken the host of Alioth and Sindral's father, Merrick. And in this chapter, they basically said that Joseph now lives, Merrick is dead. And at the end of the chapter, we see Xylock, Ezra, Alioth, I think one other person, Corey, they all show up, like trying to defeat Zalron, basically. But it makes me wonder if they're going to realize that Merrick is dead. I don't know. We might find out though, because the next chapter, chapter 37, says the final goodbye. So maybe not. I don't know. I have to remember how many chapters are actually in the book. 45 chapters. Yeah. Oh, so he kind of does undie. So maybe that lady that he just killed could come back to life via magic. Yeah, I guess it's possible. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, based on his master bringing Joseph back to life, I guess it's technically possible. I don't know if Xylock has the magical skill, shall we say, air quote, to make it happen. I guess we'll see. By the way, all of these chapters are on YouTube. I've recorded all of them. And then that way, if anyone missed anything and they want to go back and listen to it again, YouTube is the place to be. And I'm running ads because it was about to start, so we're just going to get those out of the way. And then we'll continue reading. Hades says, it was a weird time for sure. How so? What made it weird, Hades? I hope not like a weird or just a weird. Or was it like weird? Tell you what, these tunes I found on YouTube they're so calming. Smart to add to YouTube. I always said I was going to do that, but I haven't done that yet. Well, I don't like edit my videos first and then upload them. So whatever happens on here is going to be seen on there. I tried doing that like a year ago or whenever I decided to start uploading to YouTube. But it just takes too much time, and I don't have a lot of extra time. I'm a busy guy. I've got a full-time job. I've got my stream stuff. I've got my voice acting on the side. I've got a house to take care of, a family to, be part of, life itself. So instead of doing all that, I just throw it up as it is. Oh, and our ads are over. So if you were in ads, welcome back. We are now going to start reading chapter 37. So without further ado, let's crack on, shall we? Chapter 37, The Final Goodbye. The preface to this chapter is 15 minutes earlier in Titalis. So we're kind of going back 15 minutes leading up to everything that we just saw. Eliath gave his cousin a high five as they left the castle. That team attack we did was amazing. I didn't think Lord Zorin would be that brilliant. Moog. My goodness, I was lurking on you. How are you? Thank you so much for the raid. What the heck? You came at a good time because we were just starting. I read like the first sentence of a chapter. Welcome in. Let's do the big shouty outy. Folks, if you're not following Moog, she's a wonderful lady. She reads, she does like, excuse me. She does, what the heck is it called? With the timer. Bleh, my mind just went blank. Stents. No, not stents. Is it stents? Maybe it's stents. Sprints. Thank you. Sprints. I knew what I meant. Oh man, I'm a hot mess. She does reading sprints and stuff like that, so you can all read whatever you want. You don't have to, read the same thing that she's reading. But I swear, you've probably read like 300 books so far in a month or something ridiculous like that. I mean, I do pretty well reading on stream, but when you do your reading sprints, you just like bam, bam, bam. You go through them. And then she plays games too. So, and she's just a wholesome human being. Like, you can't go wrong with the Moog. Thank you for bringing your community over. For those folks that don't know me, I am the Bookfather. I read books on stream. Right now we're reading this book up here, The Kingdom Society. Sometimes we'll play a game as well, like Once Human, for example. And I do some voice acting on the side, so I'm so glad you're here. You're welcome to stick around if you have to raid and run. I totally understand. Moog, that goes for you too. I very much appreciate you. If you need to go, eat some num-nums or whatever it is you need to do post-stream, I get it. I just... You've blessed me with your presence, okay? Thank you. You are too kind. Yep, that makes total sense. You do your thing, ma'am. Thank you again. Seriously. Let's see. I'll just start the chapter over because we had only really just started. So this is 15 minutes earlier from the previous chapter in Titalis. Eliath gave his cousin a high five as they left the castle. That team attack we did was amazing. I didn't think Lord Zoran would be that brilliant. Ezra nodded and took a bite of a meal bar. I guess that's what happens when you train with a legendary warlock. We're definitely using that attack in the fight against Zalron. Zoran, Zylok, and Belgazar strolled out and joined them. Eliath looked at Lord Stark with pleading eyes. So, there's no way we can convince you to join our fight against Zalron? Zoran shook his head and sighed. I'm sorry, but I can't. I've been away from my wife and son for too long. On top of that, I need to pay Pyrrhus a visit. Don't worry, though. We'll run into each other again. Eliath nodded and shook his hand. I look forward to the next time. Be safe and be blessed. He turned to Zylok and immediately felt sick. The old man's face showed a look of horror he'd never seen before. What's wrong? Zylok grabbed Ezra and Eliath's arms, and then he bowed his head to Belgazar. I'm sorry, old friend, but we have to leave. Something has come up that requires our immediate attention. Belgazar put his hand on the man's shoulder and smiled. Whatever it is, I'm sure you'll take care of it. Be well, my friends. Come back soon. Eliath watched as Zoran and Belgazar disappeared from sight. A moment later, he stood in a brand new city that he'd never seen before. Something felt off, though. A dark miasma lingered in the air, and the smell of burning flesh entered his nose, making him cough. Zylok, over here. Eliath turned his head to the pleasant voice and found Corey standing next to a tree. He rushed over and hugged the man. Corey, it is so good to see you. And you as well, young master. I wish we had time to visit, but Zalron and Arion are over there by the gravestones, and something bad is happening. I can feel it. Before Zylok could respond, a colossal boom shook the ground and a bright white and purple energy blinded them. Eliath steadied himself as a gale-force line of wind pounded them, nearly knocking him over. He attempted to see through the chaos, but the only thing visible were three shadowy figures. One lying on the ground, another standing with his arms out to the side, and another walking toward them. Finally, however, everything became clear. Eliath stared at a field full of rocks and debris. In the midst of it all, he could see small pieces of a castle. Turning his head, he found Zalron coming toward them. He put up his hands and looked at the old man. "What have you done, you monster?" Zylok raised his hands and prepared for a fight. As Zalron charged forward, Alioth thought about what he'd do to the man who took his father away. Before he got the opportunity, though, Arion appeared in between them all. The Dark Council member looked at Zalron. "Not this time." He returned his attention to Zylok. "Until next time, old man." Grabbing his comrade, he phased them out of sight. Zylok dropped his hands and blew out a sharp burst of air. "Corey, why didn't you contact me sooner? We might have been able to prevent this." Corey dropped his head. "I'm sorry, Zylok. Everything happened so fast." The old wizard smiled and hugged his companion. "It's all right, lad." Zylok led them further toward the wreckage of the city and came across Arya. He kneeled and placed a hand on her neck. "She's dead." He grabbed her hand and found a burned chocolate wafer. He grabbed it and put the treat in his side bag. "I knew this girl. I met her a long time ago when I killed the Black Hood for the first time. It seems I failed once again in my mission to protect the innocent." Ezra put a hand on his shoulder and kneeled beside him. "You can't blame yourself. Zalron is a monster. He wiped out an entire city. If there ever was a shred of good left inside of him, there isn't anymore." As Alioth looked around the field, his eyes fell upon Merrick's body. "Guys, my father is over there." He rushed toward the body and dropped to the ground. Placing a hand on his father's chest, he searched for a pulse, but couldn't find one. He put a hand on the man's neck, but still couldn't find any sign of life. No, you can't be dead. Please come back to me." Tears started streaming down his cheeks. He felt like a failure. His promise to save his dad and bring him home to Sindral and Meridian couldn't be fulfilled. Zylok rushed over, followed by Ezra and Corey. They all dropped to the ground and placed their hand on Merrick's body. The old wizard sniffled before speaking. "Today, we mourn the soul of Merrick Gabriel Zane. He was a loving father, a strong sorcerer, and a good friend. I pray you find peace in the heavens, young warrior." Zylok pulled Alioth off the man and held him close. "It's going to be okay. I promise we will get justice for your father." Alioth felt his cousin and Corey's hands rest upon his back. He released a deep breath and stared at his father for the last time. As he was beginning to turn away, Merrick's body vibrated intensely before glowing brightly with a golden light. Before he could so much as put a hand on the man's body, Merrick broke apart into tiny particles of energy and drifted up to the sky before disappearing from sight. "What happened?" he asked the old man fiercely. Zylok stroked his beard and mumbled to himself, "I don't know, lad. I'm sorry." "You don't know? But you have the answers to everything, Zylok." Alioth gripped at his chest. Burning pain coursed through his body as he thought about his father. Zylok dropped his head and sighed. "Unfortunately, I don't have the answer for this." He turned to Corey and held out his hand. "Share your energy with me, lad. It's time to go to Vasilius. Eliath closed his eyes as they phased. Once arriving back in Vasilius, he went straight to his chambers and fell onto his bed. After a few minutes of staring at the ceiling, he drifted off to sleep. There's a break in the story, which means I'll take a sip of tea. I honestly thought there'd be more of a, screaming, mourning, no moment when he learned his father was dead. There was a tiny bit, but not a lot. Oh. Okay. Amlas wants to flip the sand. Let's see if I can do this without messing it up. My pleasure, thank you. So all of this that you're seeing right here, this is just hazy from the flip, and then you're just seeing the wall behind. So it's hard to tell, but right here, sand has begun to fall. I almost need like a black. Yeah, I need a dark background. That's what I need. I'll have to see if I can conjure something up to make that look better. I'm sure I can MacGyver something. I'm pretty good with that kind of thing. I can be resourceful when I put my mind to it. All right. Paint a black square on the wall. Perfect. Yep. I'm sure the next buyer of the house, which is already sold, by the way, won't mind that one bit. Nilfgaard slipping in quietly to listen while doing chores. All right, we'll let the sand do its thing and we'll keep reading. As the next day came, Eliath still felt miserable. His sister had tried to cheer him up, as well as Kayla, but nothing changed his sour mood. He didn't even feel like training. Well, yeah, his dad just died. Moving out to the balcony, he rested his arms on the railing and stared down at the countless warriors from Balthagar and Vasilius training with each other. Why did it have to happen? I never even got to say goodbye to him. I wish I could be 8 years old again and start over with a new life. A soft hand landed on his shoulder, and immediately he felt a calm presence take over his body. Are you okay, love? He turned his head and found his mother standing next to him. He forced a small smile to his face, grabbed her hand and held it tightly. Not really, Mother. I miss Father. I mean, I've missed him ever since he was taken over by the Black Hood, but I always knew we'd figure out a way to save him. Now I just feel empty and broken inside. Meridian wrapped her arms around him, kissed his forehead and smiled. My little Allie, I miss him too. But do you think he'd want us to live our days in regret and sadness? Eliath shook his head and sighed. Merrick was a kind soul who inspired everyone who met him. He imparted a lot of that to you, love. Now, you're the man of the house. I want you to go out there with those warriors and train hard with them, knowing that Merrick is smiling down on all of us. Can you promise me that? Eliath took a slow, deep breath and leaned his head against his mother's shoulder. Yes, I can do that. I won't let you down. Meridian kissed him on the forehead and gave him a playful shove toward the stairwell. Good boy. Zylok is waiting for you in the training pits. And tonight, we're having a feast for you, just like I promised. Eliath grinned. His mother always knew how to cheer him up. Can Kayla come? Meridian nodded, folded her arms, and raised her eyebrows. Of course she can. I've been wanting to get to know her for a while. She is, after all, from what I hear, your future wife. She winked. Mother? Eliath spoke in a hushed tone as his cheeks reddened. I don't want everyone to know. Meridian giggled softly. So you do like her? Eliath couldn't help but smile at his mother. He turned and darted toward the stairwell, waving goodbye to Meridian as he left. Love you. As he arrived at the fighting pits, he found Zylok standing next to Kairos and another man he didn't recognize. He rushed up and put a hand on the old man's shoulder. Any room for me to get in on the action? Mom, stop embarrassing me. Hi, Mel. Sorry, just needed to give the sand some motivation. How are we, sweets? I am doing okay. How are you? Just trying to make sure our sand falls continuously, which it looks like it's starting to do, so that's good. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I hope you are as well. I will admit I just lost my place, so that's cool. Oh, no, we're good. About a third of, or a quarter of the way down page 405. Zylok turned around and immediately released a cheerful laugh. Good afternoon, lad. It's good to see you in high spirits. I'm sorry I didn't come check on you sooner. I just wanted to let you recover. And Killa's here. Hi, Killa. How are you? I haven't seen you stream lately. You must have been very busy. What? Aw, Killa. 12 months in a row? That's like a whole year. Thank you so much for the resub. You kind bean. I'll be getting back into it next week. Good. It's about time. We haven't seen your face. We miss your face. Time to spin the wheel. It's wheel time. Let's see what your sub lands on. Hammer curls. Okay. I also got a puppy. Pictures. I have to see pictures. Please. I swear I almost knocked over the sand thing. That would have been really bad. I'll send here in a few. Please do. And thank you for the resub. We've now got 10 push-ups and 5 hammer curls to attend to. The only problem is my camera is now pointing at the sand and not over here where I would do the exercises and the workouts and whatnot. But I can spin it around when it's time. Thank you, Killa. You're such a sweetheart. All right, I lost my place again. Gosh darn it. Oh yeah. I just wanted to let you recover, is what Zylok said. It's all right, he said, crossing his arms and focusing on the fight occurring before him. I need to train. It's the only way I can take my mind off of it all. He noticed Ezra fighting an opponent he didn't recognize. The mysterious warrior wore all black garments with a leather belt holding it all together. He held swords in both hands and moved gracefully with his attacks and movements. Eliath tapped Kairos on the shoulder. Who is that guy? Pick scent? Okay, I am pausing the story to take a look at this. Oh, stop it. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. It almost makes me want another puppy. Look at him. Or her. I can't tell. Oh, his name is Brutus. He's an American Bulldog. Yes, he is. Oh my gosh. What a cutie. Thank you for the pictures. That's adorable. That's awesome. Good for you. Puppies are a lot of work. Brutus. Okay. Focus. Kairos crossed his arms and smiled. You haven't met Charlie yet, have you? Eliath shook his head and became excited to meet someone new. I don't think I have. His uncle pointed to a short man with the same black attire accustomed to most assassins, except his uniform had gold lacing on the seams of the pants and shirt, and he wore a shiny silver pin in the shape of a Haita eagle, with its wings outstretched and a viper fish in its mouth. Eliath stared into the man's fierce brown eyes and held out his hand. Hello, sir. I'm Eliath Zane. Charlie grabbed his hand and nodded. Good to meet you. Good to meet you, son. Kairos told me a lot about you. My name is Charlie Winnathal. I'm the king of West Valheta and the leader of the Belgahar assassins. I just learned about assassins from Zylok a little while ago. I always thought they were bad people, but it's clear I was wrong. Eliath turned his attention back to the fighting pit and watched with great interest. The man fighting Ezra was an enormous brute standing over 6 feet 8 inches tall. He had one scar that stretched from his left temple all the way to his collarbone, and he swung a sword better than anyone Eliath had ever seen. Leaning closer to Charlie, he lowered his voice to an excited whisper. Who is that man? That's my oldest son, Korgoth. He's second in command under Lord Stark. Wait, Zoran is one of your assassins? Eliath couldn't believe it. Suddenly, memories of sitting in the sands with Arthur watching the tournament when he was 8 years old came into his mind. He couldn't believe he'd forgotten such important information. Would it be possible for me to spar with you, sir? Charlie gave Kairos and Zylok a pondering gaze before shaking his head. No, son. I have to make sure our warriors are ready for the battle when the time comes. Zylok grunted and lit his pipe. Zolron is free from Meridian's ice prison. I imagine our fight will be coming sooner than later. He walked over to Eliath and put a hand on his shoulder. Come, lad. Let's go grab some food and then we'll work on some last-minute training. Eliath smiled at Charlie and waved goodbye. It was good to meet you, sir. I look forward to talking again. Following the old man to the great hall, he began thinking about the fight approaching. With every fiber of his being, he wished they could find another way to take out Zolron and go back to a simple life. While he knew this was unlikely, he still enjoyed thinking about it. The smell of roasted meats, steamed potatoes, and pie filled his nose. The room, for once, sat mostly empty except for a few random people enjoying cups of tea with slices of cheese and chunks of bread. Before Zylok could begin getting them their refreshments and food, Eliath's eyes fell upon two people he thought he'd never see again. Kelly and Stephen Brown. He gripped the old man's arm tightly and jerked his head toward his foster parents. Zylok, couldn't you remove that mind alteration spell you put them on? The wizard turned his gaze upon the lonely couple sitting at the far end of the room. He sighed as he ruffled the boy's hair. Are you sure you want me to? There's no taking it back once I do it. They're going to know everything. And you positively sure you want to explain it to them? Eliath thought long and hard about it. Eventually, he nodded and smiled. Yes, I want you to remove the spell. Zylok pursed his lips, released a slow breath, made his way toward Kelly and Stephen Brown. He placed his hands on their heads. Silver energy poured over their bodies and their eyes went blank for a moment. Just the right amount of time for Zylok to make his escape. As he returned to Eliath, he crossed his arms and grunted. I hope you know what you're doing. When you're done here, come meet me in the fighting pits for training. Eliath nodded, put his hand on the old man's shoulder and gave him a squeeze. Thank you, Zylok. I won't forget this. After the wizard departed, Eliath made his way toward his foster parents. His heartbeat quickened. It became so fast, in fact, he had to stop and place a hand on his heart. He took a deep breath, blew it out slowly, and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Making his way to the table, he sat before Kelly and Stephen and smiled. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. He simply sat there with his mouth agape and a nervous expression on his face. Kelly reached over and put a hand on his. Adam, what are you doing here? We've got a lot to talk about. Eliath took her hand with both on his and held it to his face. I've missed you both. I never thought you'd have to find out like this. My name is Eliath Zane. You're on my home planet, Teronia. 8 years ago, when Zylok dropped me off at the orphanage, it was because my father had been taken over by an evil warlock. Zylok wanted to protect us, so he took us to Earth in order to keep us safe. I was never meant to stay with you guys, and I'm sorry that you had to go through losing me twice. When we take you back home after the battle with Zolron, I have to stay here. This is my real home. But I want to come visit you guys every so often, if that's okay. I'm so sorry for everything. Interesting how the author juxtaposes modern names and fantasy names. Yeah, well, it's because of the whole planet Earth versus planet Teronia thing. I do find this little blurb right here pretty underwhelming, though, unfortunately. their minds, just to kind of give you a quick recap, their minds were kind of wiped of memory. They have or had no recollection of who this guy is. When he was put on Earth, as just described, he was adopted by them through a foster program. And then all of a sudden he disappeared, but their minds were wiped of his existence. Until just now, when Zilok essentially just gave them back all of their memories of everything that happened. But what's interesting to me in this moment is Alioth's just like, hey, here's what happened. But if it were me, I'd be like, you're probably wondering what on earth is going on. And it also doesn't explain why they're on planet Tyronia instead of just being on planet Earth where they live. Thank you for the lurk, Mama House Gaming. I see you. So, him just suddenly showing up and be like, hey, my name isn't Adam, it's Alioth, yada yada yada, feels a bit easy, I guess, for lack of better description. If I were, Kelly or Steven, I'd be like, where the hell are we? And what the hell happened? But they're just like, Adam, we missed you. So that part seems a bit, seems off, almost. But let's keep going. Let's see what happens. Steven put his arm around Kelly and smiled. Son, you have nothing to apologize for. Being a father to you was the greatest blessing of my life, even if it wasn't forever. Kelly gazed upon her husband with love before giving Alioth the same look. Steven and I weren't able to have a child of our own. That's why we were so happy when we found you. Those 8 years were the best of my life, and I'll cherish them forever. I don't want you to blame yourself for giving us a son. We understand that this is your home and your family is here. I just want you to know that you'll always have a home with us whenever you want to visit. Tears welled in Alioth's eyes. His throat became tighter as he fought back the urge to cry. I love you both so much. He chuckled softly. Honestly, I can't believe how relaxed you guys are with all this. I would have thought for sure it would have freaked you out. Steven bellowed with laughter and slapped the table with a firm hand. Come on, sport. I'm a Marine. If I got to run into some real-life aliens, that would practically make me Master Chief. All I need is some badass armor and a rifle. Callie gasped and pinched Steven on the arm. Honey, watch your language. Steven kissed Callie on the cheek. Sorry, darling. Standing from the table, he offered a hand to his adopted son. Give me a hug, then go out there and train hard. Alioth moved quickly to the other side of the table and wrapped Steven into a tight hug. Thank you for the memories. Thank you for everything. He held out his arm to Kelly. Once she joined the embrace, he kissed her on the cheek and held her tightly. Thank you, Mom. I will always love you no matter what. Moving himself back a few inches, he stared at both of them through watery eyes. I may have parents here, but you'll always be my mother and father. No one said you can't have 2 sets of parents, right? Kelly started crying as she put her hand on the boy's cheek. I love you so much. Now get out of here before you make Steven cry. You know how much he hates emotions. She winked at him, then pushed him playfully toward the doors. I heard that, woman. Stephen grabbed her waist and pulled her close. Looking at Eliath, he gave the thumbs up and nodded. Go give him hell, sport. Go give him hell, sport. That is like the most American punchline I've ever heard. As Eliath made his way toward the courtyard, he found himself smiling instead of crying. Being able to see his foster parents almost made him forget about the fact his father had died. He pushed open the doors and headed for the gate. I'm going to become the strongest. Nothing will stop me. Nothing. Say your prayers, Zalron, because I'm coming for you. And that is the end of chapter 37.